Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Jalen. We're going to be doing our Louisiana Ragin Cajun 2025 football preview here for this upcoming college football season that is going to kick off in about, what, 3 weeks is that? I would say, roughly. Yeah, about 3 weeks from now, we will be kicking off in a brand new stadium, Our Lady of the Lord Stadium. So let's jump right into it here, Jalen. What can you tell us about the most, popular position that everybody talks about, quarterback? How's that quarterback room looking for the Louisiana Raging Cajuns?
Yeah, when it comes to the quarterback position, Chief, I think you got to look at it. You got Daniel Bill out there. You got Lunch Whitfield. You got Walker Howard. I don't think any reports have come out saying like exactly like who is QB1, but I think when you look at the quarterback position, I think it's Walker Howard's time. I think it's his job to lose. Um, I just think he came in Lafayette native. He's ready to prove himself after spending time at these SEC schools. I just think that he's ready for the job, and I think Des is officially going to name him starting quarterback week one before the season.
Well, I mean, Walker, five-star prospect coming out of STM there in Lafayette. So, I mean, if you look at, I guess one of the knocks that I think you could see on Walker Howard in that regard would be he hasn't really had that much college experience, just getting out there on the field and stuff. And he does bring a little bit more experience. He's a junior, and he's kind of the what you look at the transfer portal. You leave big power programs, come down through the G5 level, and you get your opportunity to start and prove that you belong out there on the football field. But his film out there on the field has been kind of lower than uh, you would expect for a junior quarterback for sure here, being a five-star recruit and stuff. So that is a little bit scary, but he does bring experience to that Cajun quarterback room because about getting behind Jackson Dart. And, he was there at LSU with Jaden Daniels was there on campus and stuff. So that's something that you look at. It's a big cohesion for them, and that kind of gives them that experience that, because Bill, we've seen him play during the Sun Belt Championship game after Chandler got hurt, unfortunately, in that game. And when you look at that kind of stuff, it looks, he wasn't ready for that moment, obviously, because he was only a freshman. And Dwayne Winfield, who they call him Lunch. And we've seen him play in the New Mexico Bowl this past season, running a couple of Wildcat packages for the Cajuns. So I do think they're gonna have some moments where they might even sub in Winfield and get some special schemes that he can run out there because I think it'd be very awesome to have that dual threat ability. But Walker isn't a pocket passer by any means. By me saying that, he's definitely one that can get out of the pocket and make plays like we've seen him do at STM there in high school. But the biggest knock here is we haven't really seen a lot of him at the college level. The college game is faster than high school, obviously. But we did see glimpses of where him and Shelton Sampson, they already had previous chemistry because they both went to LSU. So we've seen that on display a little bit in the spring game. So that is something to look at whenever you start looking at that thing there. And I think that's they already have that chemistry there. So looking there, I think the quarterback room, it is young behind Walker, and there's not a lot of experience there. So he's definitely the player I think that's going to make a big impact for the Cajuns in 2025. The one that's behind center for sure. So we'll see how that goes there. All right, so we're gonna go to the guy that usually lines up right behind him or on the side, depending on what formation you're running in. Let's talk running backs here. So some news that came out this week here: the Doak Walker Award. We have Bill Davis, that was a nominee, well, that was on the watch list, and Zylan Perry as well was on that watch list as well. Very good 1-2 power punch there, and you're kind of wondering with the Cajuns here with them having Draylen Washington transfer out, going to Alabama. So Jalen, what you think about this running back room for the Cajuns? Like how big is it for them to have a great season so far?
I think you just said it, Chief. That 1-2 punch right there with Bill Davis and Zylan Perry. Zylan Perry, the speedster. Bill Davis, the power back. Both of them have got plenty of reps the last couple of years for the Cajuns. You've seen Zylan Perry also in the return game. We've seen Bill Davis break ones throughout the season, even as a freshman. So, yeah, Draylen Washington going out. I know the Cajuns are used to having that three-man crew when it comes to running back, but there's nothing wrong with having speed and power in a 1-2 punch. I think the Cajuns' run game will be great this year, especially when you're trying to implement a quarterback. And I say a quarterback, whether that's Walker, Daniel, or whoever. So, I mean, still, you still have to have a good run game to be able to balance out your offense. And I think the Cajuns will have that in Bill Davis and Zylan Perry. And they're both going to get significant minutes. They complement each other very well. We've seen it in previous years. That's why the Cajuns have made it to Sun Belt Championship appearances with both of them on the team. So I think the running back room is one of the strengths for this Cajuns team, but especially the strength on offense, especially going into this season.
I think it's going to be, Coach Dez likes to run the pistol, and I think that's going to set up them play action passes whenever you get that running game going for sure. It's going to be the bread and butter of this team. It's been that way since, especially when Napier was head coach here, and that was under Dez. Dez was the offensive coordinator during that 2021 season when they win the Sun Belt championship there at Cajun Field, beating App State. So Bill Davis, I've watched a interview he did one with an interview that he did, and he lost some weight. He got down to 225, and you notice he's like I run hard. I'm power. I got power still, but he feels like he's a little bit more shiftier this year. So that kind of backs up with what we've been hearing from the coaches in the offseason here, that this is the fastest Cajun team that they've had over here since they got over there in 2018, 2017-ish. So that's something that you can kind of look at and be like, okay, we got some we got something to work with here. So if the only you only got a good running game if you got a great offensive line, which brings me up to my next so when asked about before we talk about offensive line, let's talk about the third string situation. Like you just mentioned three-headed monster. So when Coach Dance was kind of pressed, like, who's that third guy? And and last year, whenever they had, guys get hurt, get nicked up during the season, which is normal for college football and football in general, he kind of said, we don't really, we might have to run 1-2 out there. So um, it just kind of depends on who's available here. And do you really trust him to be that third guy? I don't think Dez is going to really force anybody out there that he doesn't trust to carry the rock during the season. So I think that's something that they're going to look at here whenever they come up to this season and figure who's going to be that third down back here. Uh, that's I mean that third back in the backfield. That's something that you're going to look at and see as the season progresses here. Hey, this is a good time for some guys behind Zylan Perry and Davis to get some reps in. There's a very good opportunity for them to earn that playing time there, which is Dad's going to get them opportunities, I think, throughout the year, and we'll see how it goes when the season kicks off against Rice. So now, Jalen, let's talk about the offensive line here for the Raging Cajuns here. Jax Harrington, Erath native here, and George Jackson, who, this offensive line looks like it's going to be really, good for the Cajuns. They got a little bit of depth there. They got guys that they can play around with and stuff here. So how you feel about the offensive line heading into the 2025 season?
Chief, well, I think I feel great about the offensive line. I think I feel more particular. Uh, I feel great in particular, I should say, about the right side of the ball because you got Jax Harrington and George Jackson. Now, when you kind of look at the left side of the ball, where you have the left tackle, left guard, these are guys that have played meaningful minutes, like Brian Williams, for an example, have played minutes. But when you look at the starters like Jax Harrington and George Jackson, who have been on this team for a couple of years now, veterans, they're going to hold it down on the offensive line and help the other guys out. I'm interested to see left tackle because that's quarterback's blind spot. But that's something that Coach Dez is gonna make sure he has straight for the season. And even if, and I think I even talked to before when it came to that position whether they're going to rotate or have one man in there, but I guess we'll have to see. But I'm thinking the offensive line is going to be great this year.
Yeah, I think so as well. We got to see them in action during the spring game. They look like they got off the ball pretty good there. So that is something to kind of look at whenever you are comparing these offensive lines and stuff. So whenever you look at their how well do they run block here, because that's kind of the Cajuns' bread and butter. Look like they get up to the second level pretty well as a unit. But then again, this might be one of those situations where like I've mentioned before with spring game material and stuff. Whenever you talk about spring game and your offensive line's bullying that defensive line, could be a good thing or it could be a horrible thing, depending on how you look at the situation. Well, we got an okay offensive line, but our defensive line is like subpar, right? In that, context of theory
Right.
and stuff. So with that there, if this line can consistently get to the second level, get to them linebackers, knock them off the ball, I mean, knock them defensive tackles and defensive ends off the ball, move them back, and get to that second level, that Cajun offense is going to be humming this year. I think they might even be more explosive this year, but we'll get into that a little bit later on here too. So, but just as far as offense goes, they do have some younger guys on this team here. So, I mean, to kind of look at the roster going up and down, I want to sort this by position because this is going to be a lot easier to kind of break down corner, defensive end, defensive lineman. We'll talk defense later on, obviously kicker. Kicker's going to be an interesting one this year. I'm kind of interested in that
It
with,
definitely is. It definitely is.
so you got a couple of redshirt freshmen, Ryder Bentley and from Monroe, redshirt freshman, Cooper Forham, redshirt sophomore. Why did this thing jump like that? I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, so you do have some young guys there that they're gonna have to learn how to go, how this thing works here. But like you mentioned, the blind spot here, they do have some guys that did fill in at times during last season too, because injuries and stuff. Well, Balin Williams, Zay Alexander, that's you see Andrew Martinez, Jackson Hammond, Bryant Williams, like you mentioned, Jalen, Xavier Brown, John Bragg, Jax Harrington, like we mentioned, George Jackson. Those are your seniors. That's the guys that you want. Like, hey, Caden Morrow from Pineville, Matthew Broussard, Mackie Mahilo, senior. That's something that you got to look at here. I think they got enough talent here. They got a nice mix, though. If you really want to look at it here, between seniors and stuff here. What I've noticed with the G5 schools, really, if you start looking at their experience level around like offensive line and stuff like that, that makes a big difference here. And that's what we saw last year with the Cajuns. Whenever we were doing their prediction here, they had, we said it here, Jalen. Me and you sat right here in the same area. We're like 10 wins. We said
Yep.
10 wins. And if you could go play back that clip last year, we were there. We said it. We called it. Remember that. But this year, we're gonna go start talking about wide receiver. Let's go start talking about wide receiver here. We're trying to go through these positions as quickly as we can so we can get to the games and stuff. So wide out here. If you look at the wide receiver, they lost a lot. You know, you had Harvey Broussard,
Hmm.
he's gone. You had, basic. I would technically consider Terrence Carter. I mean, he was a tight end, but basically, there's a lot of targets that's got to get eat up a lot in this Cajun offense. And you got Shelton Sampson that came in. I think he's the Robert Williams. He's going to be one of those guys too, as well at that point here. He's back. Robert Williams had 26 catches last year. Um, so it's kind of like anyone who caught over 10 passes from the Raging Cajuns this past season is gone. Jacob Bernard. Um, so, and if you want to compare tight ends together too, they have a lot of just open targets. So, who are these targets going to, Jalen? Like, do you think Sampson is that wide receiver one? Because to me, I think he would be. They went to the transfer portal because they didn't feel like they had enough, obviously. And what we saw in the spring game, Sampson definitely looked like he was ready to be a wide receiver one for the Cajuns. And will that be Walker Howard's preferred target? Like, 'cause we did talk about their chemistry that like was very apparent from LSU.
Yeah, Chief. I think Sheldon Sampson is the go-to number one receiver. We talked about it earlier. even before the spring game even happened, that he definitely would be wide receiver one. At least that's what we were hoping for. And we see the spring game, we see how great him and Walker Howard had the chemistry. I think he's definitely the bona fide wide receiver one for this Cajuns team. I think he's ready for that. He didn't get that opportunity that he wanted to when he was at LSU. Now he's with the Raging Cajuns. I think him and Walker Howard definitely going to be that quarterback wide receiver duo that the Cajuns need, especially after losing so many guys. But when it comes to those targets, yeah, Sheldon Sampson is going to get a bulk of those targets. Targets. We can't forget about Robert Williams, who's still on the team. He was here uh, last season, made a lot of plays, so we can't forget about Robert Williams. But also, we talk about tight end too. We can't forget about Cade Jensen. Now, Cade Jensen played a lot of games last year. This year, he's going to be tight end one. He's going to get a lot of passes. So the Cajuns have ways to spread the ball. Not a lot as they did in previous years, but this year they still have guys that can go out there and make plays. And I think Sampson and Cade Jensen are your top two players that's going to get the ball this year.
Yeah, because you're kind of wondering how these targets are going to get divided up, and you might have somebody that might just pop up and be that person for Walker Howard. Besides those two, besides Robert Williams, that fourth person that might end up being pop up, and when they go spread them out three wide receiver sets and stuff, and just try to see who's going to get the ball there. There's a lot of targets out there that's going to be up for grabs, and it definitely good for one of these young guns to come up there and just make plays for the Cajuns here, that don't normally get those, like Trenton Cheney, a freshman, Raji Dennis, redshirt freshman, guys like that. They could definitely see the field and potentially make a big impact in the 2025 season that you don't see coming, which is usually what happens with the Sun Belt. You get guys that come out of left field and they're like, okay, we're good to go here. Um, so on offense, Jalen. How you like how would you take this offense? Like how you feel about it?
I mean,
Is
I
it
feel
better than
good.
last year's? Let's throw that out there. Are they gonna like they scored a lot of points last year?
I don't want to say too early they're better than last year. I think I do see a lot of versatility with the offense this year compared to last year. I'm not saying last year didn't, but I think that they have to be more versatile because you do have to plug in more guys this year than you did last year, especially when it comes to quarterback, especially when it comes to the offensive line. I think the only position that you can say that you have the strongest that I said earlier is the running back position. But other than that, it's like, yeah, you have guys that were there last year. You have guys that are coming in this year. They're like, hey, we're going to make an impact. So I like the offense, but I can't say I love it until I see, especially after week one when I see them play.
All right, let's go with the other side of the ball, defensive line. So last year they didn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They didn't get a lot of sacks last year. That's been kind of the key, getting pressure on the quarterback and stuff. But they had a very good secondary though too. The secondary really helped out a lot. The defensive line did just enough here. How you feel about them? Like they got Fitzgerald West, he came from LSU, Jordan Lawson. Who is this year, this defensive line? We did see them play in the spring game. That time that they get knocked off the ball, but they look like they got a little bit more pressure on the quarterback compared to last year. So what you think, Jalen?
I think the defensive line could be the strongest unit. Uh, well, I think running back is still overall probably on the team. But as far as defensive wise, defensive line is definitely the strongest unit. Like you said, like you just mentioned, Chief Fitzgerald West Jr., Kadarius Miller, he got another year of eligibility. He's excited about that. He said it's a blessing. Jordan Lawson at DN. So I think the defensive line is definitely the strongest defensively for the Cajuns. They're going to be the leaders and help these guys out because they're again on defense. They have to replace a lot of guys in the secondary, and I don't want to jump ahead, Chief, but we're going to get to the secondary. But as far as the defensive line, I think they're the best unit defensively for this team, and they're going to be the leaders, and they're the ones who are going to step up this year and make plays.
Yeah, that's gonna be the one that I'm kind of curious to see how this defensive line does. Seven guys in and out. I think that'd be a really good thing for the Cajuns here, just to get that mix. You mentioned Kadarius Miller had a, you got that extra year of eligibility. You got like some young guys like Chase Edwards out there, a redshirt sophomore from Houston, Texas. Lance Williams from New Orleans, redshirt sophomore. there's guys, young guys especially, that can get in there and sub and help these seniors out whenever they're out there on the field here. I mean, the best defense is a good offense, like that can churn out yards and run that clock down here to where they can rest up the defense throughout the 4 quarters of a football game. That is one thing that is always good as I during my days of playing, not college football, but like school stuff. But anyway, that's always the way of doing things. So let's start talking about linebacker here. Casey Osai, he's gone. I think he was the leader of the defense, honestly, from last year. Um,
Definitely.
you got Jaden Duggar in there, Terrence Williams, Khalif Edwards. A lot of people are excited about Edwards this year, maybe making that leap, being that leader this year. Um, what y'all thinking, Jalen, or what you thinking? Ethan Veal, what we thinking here?
I think when you look at the linebacker and you see the name right, yeah, Khalif Edwards, you just mentioned. I think he's a guy that's going to be even stronger this year. Played a lot of snaps last year. Jaden Duggar. I mean, you have some names right there. I know it's hard to replace a guy like Casey Osai, who's been the Cajuns, the captain of the defense the last couple of years. But I think the linebacking core will be fine. I think they have guys out there that are able to come in, do what they're supposed to do, and whichever one, I don't know who's going to be wearing the dot that's going to help tell the defense this year, but whoever has it is going to be great on the defensive side. I think linebackers are going to be fine. I think a lot of people are questioning like, oh, we lost Casey Osai, oh, we lost oh my god, why I can't think of his name right now.
Or
You
Michael
probably already
Rash?
mentioned it. Yes, thank you. So thank you, Chief. So you lose key guys, and it's like it's not a detriment to the defense, especially the linebackers. They have guys, like I said, that play meaningful snaps, and they're going to be ready to step it up.
I think it's whatever the position, you got to have the next man up mentality. I think that's just the way that
Yeah,
football it just is in general. You just got to get out there and just go do your thing, that kind of thing here. I
absolutely.
think there's a lot of like experience, like with seniors and stuff on the linebacking core, and I think that's going to help out a lot with these younger guys coming in there too. So I think the case will be fine at linebacker. I don't really see it here being too much of an issue. Like some people are trying to point out a little bit, like okay, we lost KC, but I mean, look, Casey's a great ball player, but I think there's enough there to be sufficient and working his output, like matching his output there. So, what I think the strength of this defense is, even though they did lose some guys last year, secondary, I do think secondary is still very strong in that regard. Jalen, you want to give us a little bit of a talking point about this secondary? Uh you've talked to some of these guys before.
So I sorry, a little bit early, I kind of jumped the gun, but I think I think excuse me, I think the secondary is definitely they're not the weakest link of the defense. And I don't think nobody is weak. But I think they're the ones with the most question marks. And when you lose guys like Keon Martin, you lose guys through the transfer portal like Justin Agu. I think it's hard to replace guys like that. And I want to say the only returning person in the secondary was Tyree Skipper. So it's hard to. Now Tyree Skipper's a great player, but it's hard to replace these other guys, especially Amir McDaniel, who was at nickel. So I mean, it's hard to replace these players, but I think a lot of guys are going to step up. I think a lot of these transfers that came in, make sure I get their names right, like Curly Reed, who's new to the team at corner, and you're going to Trey Tomlinson. I mean, guys at corner
I
who
think he
were
was from Richmond, ain't
yeah. So
he? Reed,
you have
yeah.
these yeah, oh yeah. So you have these guys that are coming in from the transfer portal that Coach Des is like, hey, we need you to step up because we lost a lot of great guys. So it is a position with the question marks. I can't wait to see what they do, especially what they do in the first week of the season, because these teams are going to target them. It don't matter what schools they transfer from. They're new to the Cajuns program. They're new to being a Cajuns DB, so they're going to target them. But I think Tyree Skipper being the leader, he's the new leader in the secondary for sure. So he's gonna make sure he do everything he can to make sure his guys are good.
I mean, there's one person you failed to mention, Jalen. What about Cortland Flowers? He's been there a couple of years.
No, that's true.
Cody
You're right.
Jackson,
You're
redshirt
absolutely right.
sophomore. I mean, like it's. I think there's enough there that you won't see it. There's a couple of juniors here too. Kerry Wilson is a junior. We didn't see some of these guys play, but they've been down in Barnes, a redshirt senior. I mean, there's experience there, so I think they'll help
I
the
mean,
transfers come in and
Jalen
like,
Clark has played a lot of minutes
yeah.
too.
I think that's I think there's a lot there that I think it's kind of overplayed with the question mark kind of thing a little bit there. But look, it takes time for these transfers to get adapted to it in game situations because here's the thing. You could get five-star players like Walker Howard and stuff to come in, but you got to have
Yep.
chemistry with your team to work really well. And that's something you just can't do with talent. That's something that comes from just playing together, practicing together, getting in rhythm and getting in sync with these things here because chemistry is very like forgotten about in sports here, especially in today's day and age of the transfer portal. Chemistry is very important. You know what your other person's supposed to be doing assignment wise, you know that guy's gonna have your back. Whenever you have someone new, you it you kind of start second guessing yourself a little bit, like, okay, what's he gonna do? That kind of thing. But I think that's just part of human nature anyway. Not saying there's like any of that going on with the Cajuns or anything, but that's just the way it is. I think the secondary is gonna be all right though. I think this will be fine, and I can't wait to see how this season plays out for the Cajuns. Now, we're going to try to wrap everything up here. We kind of went through everything a little bit quicker here, but now we're going to go through every single game, Jalen. And we're going to be quick about this here. Uh, Cajuns versus Rice. Who you got? I got the Cajuns.
I got the Cajuns also.
Cajuns versus McNeese.
Cajuns 2-0 right there. Start the season.
I got Cajuns 2-0 as well. Missouri, I got them losing to Missouri.
Missouri is up and coming SEC. I think Missouri's gonna take this one, but it's gonna be close.
All right. At Eastern Michigan, I got Cajuns winning that one.
I have the Cajuns winning too. Thursday's 3-1 so far.
Yeah. Marshall's rebuilding a little bit. They lost a lot in the transfer portal. I got Cajuns winning that one at home. Then they get revenge.
Too many players transferred after they won the whole thing in the Sun Belt. So I'm gonna take the Cajuns in this one.
At James Madison, man, so I think Cajuns might drop this one, honestly. I think they might go 4-2.
I think the Cajuns drop this one. This another one is gonna be close. JMU. I know it's gonna be hard to win up there.
Yeah, they're both picked to win their division, so they might meet each other again. At versus Southern Miss, this one is a Southern Miss was bad last year, but they got a lot of transfers in from Sunbelt champion Marshall, and I think that should be kind of scary for us as a Cajuns fans here. I'm gonna put a loss. I know it's my birthday weekend, so I hope they win, but I think we're gonna drop that at home. Honestly, I don't feel good about it, honestly, right now.
The
What
Cajuns
you
are going to
think?
stop losing the sub. The Cajuns are going to stop losing the Southern Miss. I'm sorry, they're going to win this one. They're going to stop this nonsense because Southern Miss, unless they prove to me otherwise, the Cajuns are going to win.
All right. Troy, I think Cajuns win again on the road at Troy.
Yep, Cajuns. All right, guys, win against Troy
I got them beating South Alabama on the road. I think they get
on the road.
revenge from last year.
Yeah, I think the Cajuns do beat South Al. I would say that also.
Texas State. Texas State has never beat the Cajuns. Give me the Cajuns to beat them again in their final year in the Sun Belt.
And they're going to exit the Sun Belt with a loss to the Cajuns, as they do almost every single year. So
Yeah. So I'm at 7-3. Arkansas State here. I hate not picking the home team in this series because of just how it is between both these teams. Last time Cajun went up here, they got I think they lost last time they were up. I think they did. I'm trying to remember. I know one time. I think they lost in 23 up here pretty bad. So they're gonna lose one of these games they're not supposed to. It could very well be Arkansas State, honestly. I got Cajun dropping that one.
I actually do have the Cajuns dropping that one. Arkansas State has a great dual threat quarterback. Arkansas State is up and coming. I think the
Yep.
Cajuns will lose this one to the Red Wolves.
ULM, I got Cajuns beating ULM.
That's not even a question. Cajuns are going to beat ULM.
So, man, so I got the Cajuns dropping three conference games. 8-4. I picked this conservatively, just to let everybody know. I just kind of like, okay, until we see. Because look, my reasons are stated here. I'll say it right here. Um, Walker Howard played a lot in college. It's very hard to get